1 hour before we landed, before they said, fasten your seatbelts, we are going to be landing, blah, 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 nini. I went to the bathroom and I locked the door. Told God, now I'm here to talk to you. So, me, I don't know what's going to happen down there. But Wezi, you cannot bring me all the way here and embarrass me at the ground. Able make sure that this story does not end with me being turned around at the airport, because I don't know what I'll tell you. So let me introduce myself. Previously, I've come here under the name Levi Kones. A lot of you don't know my last name. It's actually Kitoch. I don't really share it much, but today I'll tell you it's Kitoch. But apparently, I'm now Levi Kones Kitoch, coming to you all the way from Australia, from the state of New South Wales, and coming to tell you a little bit of the story of what has happened after I got here. But also coming to just say that indeed it is true. Tulifika ng'ambo. It is true. We are here. I think it doesn't sound real still. I don't know. Maybe sometimes you can really write yourself off, because I believe, there are times you sit back and you question and you're like, what, did it really happen? Sometimes I'm even driving on the road and I'm asking myself, did it really happen? Am I really here? Is it me on these highways, in this supermarket? For some days there, you're in a daze. Because now I'm reminded so much of the days when I used to be in the US, because this country is so much like the US in many ways. Mbaka, you get some deja vu things and it's surprising. Maybe, people wrote me off, but I guess I wrote myself off too. It's a terrible thing to happen to an individual, I suppose. I'll tell you, the thing started from the airport. I've seen the hand of God in many, many ways while I've been here. The day I was leaving, for example, I went to the airport and a really good friend of mine managed to get me some really, awesome concessions. I was escorted by a policeman to through the VIP section. Yeah. And you do remember in my stories, I say the last time I came to Kenya, I was met by a policeman, and when I was coming from a first world country. And then now this time I was escorted by one, out of the country. And even what happened? This guy even took me inside. I went there. I gave out my passport. Ile style ya Kenya unarukishwa kalaini hivi Alafu tena nikatoka nikamingle na watu, chill until it was almost time to leave, and there I went. And I was flying Kenya Airways. It's been a lifelong dream for me to fly Kenya Airways. I think as a patriotic Kenyan, everybody should fly Kenya Airways at one point or another. I didn't really know what to expect. I got on it. I booked economy, and I was upgraded to business class to Bangkok. I ask myself, these things, who do these things happen to? Mimi nilikuwa business class. Hata siamini. And that flight was excellent. What can I say? Excellent flight. I got to Bangkok. I was worried about how the experience would be at the terminal of staff. My bags were opened and reopened 100 times by those chaps in Bangkok. I did not know it at that time, but they say that Thailand, naziko ubaya wale watu kunatoka huko, ni conduit kubwa sana ya madrugs kwenda kuja hizi maside za huko. So kuja na hiyo route na kuja huku, there's a good chance utachekiwa like 100 times. So I see it. I tell myself, okay, that's what it is. Over here, you can see the sun is setting. Actually, it's a bit on my eyes, but it's going down, and the time right now is 3:30. It will be down completely by 5. But as I was saying, when I was there during the transition time, it was about a 6-hour layover, and there was this Kenyan guy who came to me. Yeah. So this guy, I said hi to him. I told him I'm from Kenya. He told me he's traveling to Australia. He even told me where he stays. And then just as we were about to go on board, when we gave out our tickets, sasa si tumejuana, tumehang out pamoja, somebody stopped us. And they said, oh, I'm from the Australian immigration. I said, ndo hii sasa, hawa watu walipeana hivi sana, walikuwa hawajasoma hii kitu properly. Akaniuliza, where are you going? Sasa, tuko Bangkok, at board flight. Where are you going? Where are you going to see? I said, I'm going to see my wife. And where does she live? Nilikuwa nimewatch a lot of Border Patrol. Najua Border Patrol ile, unawatch? Because people told me, kupata visa sio kuingia. Kuna kupata visa, alafu kuna kuingia kwa country. There are two different things, you can learn over here. And the people who have got the ultimate decision making on whether you're entering the country or not are the visa officers. They can send you right back. I mean, who knows? At that moment in time, you're like, okay, so why did I get the visa? Because a lot of people told me that you cannot get it. People I know, people who are friends, some relatives, guys, some people are confided in, said, you can't possibly get this thing. Some people here in Australia as well, So it was, there was a lot of naysaying around it from some quarters that had probably gone into my head also a bit, even though I was like, okay, I got it. So maybe the next step is definitely I'll enter the country. But you know how we say Rojo. So I've answered this officer. I've even given him the address of where my wife is staying. He's like, oh, you even know the address? I'm like, yeah, I even know the address up to the house number. He's like, is your wife going to be waiting for you? I was like, I sure hope so. He's like, I hope so too. Huh? I told him, in fact, I hope so. There's going to be a problem with this marriage of ours. But I was just kidding. And so was he. Then he asked this other guy, what are you studying? Nini. And I guess my friend was a little bit hesitant because it was a bit sudden. So nikona ametuangalia hivi ameandika vitu kwa simu yake. He was talking to us while he was texting. So, your information alikuwa na upload mahali. So I was like, wait, okay. Now what next? So we get on the flight. It's a pretty empty flight. There's only 2 black people there. It's both of us, the Kenyans. We go to the back of the flight. The seats behind there were so many, empty, all over the place. So we sat together. We even sat separately so we could watch outside. People are sleeping. Those ones who could sleep on the 3 seats were doing the 3 seats thing. And it was a smooth flight to Australia. And we were flying over Australia for a long, long time. You get over Australia. Flight was running around 10 a.m. And I think over Australia at around 5. For like 5 hours, you're flying over Australia. And all you can see down there is a lot of red. There's a lot of desert in this country, a lot of uninhabited places and things like that. So anyway, 1 hour before we landed, before they said, fasten your seatbelts, we are going to be landing, blah, 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 nini. I went to the bathroom and I locked the door and I told God, now I'm here to talk to you. So I don't know what's going to happen down there. But you cannot bring me all the way here and embarrass me at the ground. Ebu make sure that this story does not end with me being turned around at the airport, because I don't know what I'll tell you. And I went to the seat and I sat, but I was not, how you are apprehensive. I've never been apprehensive like that about entering a country, but I was. I'd gone to India previously with my wife. Oh yeah, no big deal. We went even through the United Arab Emirates. I never worried about whether I would ever walk in. Here I was worried about this particular place. And I guess, the devil has to try you with a thought in your mind. Could it be? Is it possible? And upon landing, we are walking out. There's a flight also that has come to you from, can't remember. I think it was a Singapore or something like that. It's also full of white guys. So they see tu manyeudi tanga. So me in my mind, I'm like, hey, those guys for random searches are not going to leave us, considering we even come from Bangkok. And we go and we get in line for the passport thing. And as soon as I got to the counter where I was supposed to give my passport, the lady who was there, Aliamka, stood up and left. I told myself anyway, maybe she was not the one who was supposed to talk to me. Maybe she was the the one who was going to say, no, let her go so the yes guy can enter. So another guy came there. He asked me for my passport. He asked me, why have you ticked here that you're carrying drugs? And, there's a declaration form you take before you land. You say all the things you'll be buying. If you're carrying actual products, medicines, but medicines are under CG next to firearms, blah, 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 blah. And if you're not sure, say, I'm not sure. So me, I wrote there, I'm not sure. So he asked me why I've written, I'm not sure. I said, because I'm carrying medication. I do have prescription, but I'm not so sure whether it falls under your, prohibited items or not. So it's like, okay, go to line number 1. Line number 1, Nuko. People were being opened for their suitcases left, right, and center. You know, guys are just being told, open, 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 open. In a pekuliwa hapo, suitcases, things are just being tossed out. Nini, I'm like, okay, this is the day. So as I'm going, this friend of mine who I was with is called aside to be talked to. Now, remember, at Thailand, they had asked whether we knew each other. They said, do you guys know each other? I said, no, we just met over here. So I'm a little bit... People who have traveled will tell you, Aki, you're traveling with me. I don't know you. I do not know you. Even if we came from the same house. I don't know you. So I said, hey, do I hang here and wait for him or do I go? I'm like, the Kenyan brotherly wants to wait for him. The other part is like, dude, you don't even know why he has been pulled aside. You're hanging out to do what? So me, I went to my line, got in the line, found a nice lady there who asked me the same question. Why did you take over here? I said, I take because I'm trying medication, blah, blah, blah. I've got the prescription. I'm about to put it out. She's like, no, put your bags inside that, in the X-ray machine. I tossed my bags up on the On the other side, I walked to the other side, going to pick up my bags. I began to open them. She said, no, don't open. She said, Mr. Kones, welcome to Australia. Those words, unajua, unaona from where you are, you can see the exit ya kwenda kwa terminal there. Unachukua bags kama unakimbia. Yani, lest someone says, hey. Did we see CG document XO and So when I came out, actually, my wife was not yet there. She was actually in the parking lot. I think she was gathering. If you saw, she landed with some balloons and things. She was still gathering her balloons and stuff, blah, blah, blah. And then I saw mobile phone company right outside the terminal. So I walked there. I asked them whether I could get a mobile number. Bought a SIM card. I put it in my phone. I got a number for Australia. Kampigia simu nayo. Akuchukua. She does not take strange numbers. But I guess that's a good thing for me. You unajua bibi at least ako legit. Ongelesho ovyo uko nje. So and then she showed up right after I got the number and that was it. And you could see the excitement and the I've never seen my wife that happy. Honestly speaking. She's not a very loud and public person, but there she was dancing, singing in front of a whole terminal. People were staring, and she didn't care. And it's because of all the things that we had gone through to get over here. I mean, you can't quantify the kind of drama you have been to. We even lost some friends along the way. And friends who we thought were very legit friends who actually live here in this country, who, for all intents and purposes, practically threw us under the bus at some point. People you have trusted with your stories and things. And you look back and you look at some of those letters that were written. Like I can tell you, for example, you see, you remember the letter I told you that I got that said, that talked about the US. Yeah? It starts with the words, we have received information. Now, I'm a writer. I know what we have received means. It's not we have investigated. It's not we have unearthed. These people don't mess around with their English. They write exactly what is we have received means what? Means somebody has given it. Yeah? Unless the English language has run away from me, it means somebody has given it. So you see what I'm saying? There's all kinds of, and I don't even want to dwell on that so much, but there's all kinds of things you can think about people's vikwasos in your road to get somewhere. And that happiness was a culmination of all that drama and trouble that we had been to, the accident, the looking for finances, the issues with the time for the medical story, and making sure that I was able to pass it. Yeah, the replies back and forth, which included a lot of research on my part. in terms of, it's easy to say, I wrote this, but I had to read a lot. I was on YouTube looking at people's responses to this particular kind of issues, and I didn't have a lawyer, so it was just me and the world, because at that moment in time, even the agent felt like we should get a lawyer or we're not going forward together. So we had a complete separation of the minds. So he went, he completely like backed off my case, and I went on, researching and doing it on my own. I had the help of two friends, not even two friends. There was Samson, there was Dickens, there was Jude, who I was always talking to about this thing, and there was Ronch from the US. People who would also tell me, hey, look at this, and Jack Okwiri, yeah, I'd say, Jack, my boy, who would say, hey, look at this, have you looked at this angle, yeah, and Sifuma. I've got a bunch of boys, man, who Sifuma is in Luxembourg, who would go into there. I'm like, I'm going to reply it this way, and then they're like, okay, yeah, you be the case officer. What would you think about this particular reply? So you see, the back and forth has been quite extensive, and it's been impressive that some people have actually seen that, to the point that I had opportunity to help somebody just the other day from the US make an application for a successful stay in the US through the US immigration system, just because she says, I don't know a lawyer, but at least I know you can do some research. And I was like, okay, it's a lot of reading, but let's read and find out how we can handle these things. And I've come to realize one thing. These things are, in terms of like applications for visas and things like that, are things you can possibly do yourself. Not everybody is really good at going into the research aspect of it and trying to find out what can happen, but it is possible for you to do it on your own and actually be successful. And I think even that there could be a soft spot for those people who actually go ahead and do it on their own, as opposed to those who have had to look for someone to do it. Just because, everybody has got their own interests, agencies included, and I'm not hearing anyone's business or anything, but I think even I would find it a little bit more compelling to read something from somebody who has had no help, per se, in putting out their own case themselves. They put in a lot of effort to find out what the rules are, what the requirements are, how they can, project their case better. It would be a breath of fresh air if I looked at it myself. So there's something in there. Say some things you can try. Kishindwa or mishindwa bas, you can elicit help, and you can always get friends you can bounce off from. You can get friends who are as committed as mine, and who can help you do those things. Then that would be a good thing. But hey, here I am, as they say, hapa ni wapi. Yeah, I think God had to allow this. God had to allow this for His name to be glorified. For it to be it's not just a me thing. It's supposed to be an example to people that you're not your past. That what you have gone through can be. I mean, it could have been easy for me to just get a visa and just walk in, or it could have been even easier for it to be said no, and for it to be, that cannot happen to you. But as I said in the last broadcast we had, there is no glory without pain. There's got to be pain so that there can be glory. And we have to, and the stories that we talk about, athletes winning a championship, all that effort they put into it day by day, and then they say, okay, he ran in 9 seconds and he won the 100 meters. But we all know that it's not the 9 seconds. It's the hours and hours of work, behind it. That's why some people are crying when the national anthem is big. It's a culmination of so many things and the hardships that you have undergone. Maybe you had a blister or broke a foot, or you woke up with a cold that day, or even you are sick when you are running. There are all those things that people may never fully quantify. There's so many sleepless nights when it comes to, like, when you're separated with your wife and there's a possibility that you might not see each other, and that she's chasing a dream in a country that you might never go to. It weighs on you. You may try to, shove it and say, well, I didn't really want to go there. I don't really care. But, it's not so much about the country. It's about the persons that you're around. I mean, will you deny somebody a chance to catch their dream just because you couldn't go somewhere? So it's a culmination of many things. And for me, definitely, it's a message to me that that God is saying, I can finally walk away from that story and build a new story of what God really intended to do with my life. Because the first part, if you read my books and stuff, there's a heavy involvement with the story of deportation from the US and what happened in the US and stuff like that. And that's okay because it gives people a different tagline on what can really happen when things go wrong in the country, but that's not the entire story. And I'm so glad that it's happening in the same life so that God can also say to even other people, that's not the entire story. People have reached out to me, like I told you last time. Actually, people have, I think the last time I told you there are many people who have been deported. Wow, I found some more. My goodness. There are a lot of people who have come back home from different countries with things having gone sour. And some of them for big reasons, some of them for small reasons. One guy told me how he just drove to the shops in a foreign country with his girlfriend and he was a bit drunk and that was it. Or it came time to his visa renewal, it was not renewed, he was sent back home. It's one mistake can send you back. And how it has been now a big chip on his shoulder when he's back home and people are, judging him, what he cannot seem to do anything new with his life or move on. It's a real blot. I mean, we are really heavy on guys who have gone abroad and come back. We're very heavy on there. And yet those are mistakes that are happening in our colleges every day. I mean, people are in their 20s. How many guys in Kenya have dropped out of college? Or have driven drunk, or have gotten into, drugs and alcohol, or have had a run-in with the law in one way or another. I mean, just because you're abroad does not make you immune to the challenges of what is happening in your 20s. It's the same challenges everywhere. I mean, the kids even in this country have all the same challenges, It's just that they don't have visa problems to contend with also. But it's the same challenges. So it's just to tell, guys that, these challenges are happening to all of us, but especially in that particular age bracket, but you can overcome them and God can give you a new chapter, a new something to talk about, can change that story so that it's not just that. We have a lot more faith in the belief that God says that all things work together for good for them that love Him, and that includes us. And that when God is doing a good thing in your life, He will be faithful to complete it. Even when we think sometimes that it's not. I mean, we're not the first people to have that doubting moment. Even Abraham doubted he'd get a kid. I mean, Sarah laughed when she was told you'll get pregnant. Basically, really? Mimi, at 90, how can it happen? Blah, blah, blah. I mean, we're not the first people to have a doubt of could it really be, And it's human nature because, there are human laws that are set in place that make it impossible for you to say black can become white or white can become black because the law is there to make sure that does not happen. But God can make things happen. Sinia watu waliandika hizi laws na wametengeneza tuna mondo. It can badilika. Yeah. So, ninaendelea kuzoea. Nimeona hapa hewa ni safi ni kama tu ya Kenya. It's not a very, it's very cold though. Hey, unaona hata vile nimevaa? Huh? Baridi. Nimekaa hapa nje tu for your sake, Justus. But baridi hapa ni legit. Ukiniona nakuanga pa na gloves. I have been driving around. By the way, it's very easy to drive here. Mostly it's, well, as long as you open a GPS, you can get to where you are going, Some of the surprising things I've seen is the presence of cops is not as intense as it was in America. It's so surprising. Since I came here, I think I've seen maybe 2 or 3 police cars at the very most. As in they're not police heavy, but they're camera heavy. Like ukifanya tu vituko utaiona kwa mailbox. The cameras are excessive. They're in Sydney, there are many. And they even introduced new cameras. There's some AI cameras that can shika you even when you're holding a mobile phone. Hata ukificha hapa chini ya dashboard. Utumia AI, Buddha. They're intense. If you're driving and you're on the mobile, that's a serious offense. And I've been to Kenyan gatherings. I've been to sadly a funeral of a gentleman who we lost when I came here on the first day. I've also been to the capital city to see the ambassador. Yeah, that was quite interesting. He's new, I'm new. We were both having a chat on the things that could be. Basically, by the way, we were talking about, young people and impact and what to do about the the generation that is here that is, for lack of better words, chomaing, in terms of character and behavior and how to reel them in, which is very difficult to begin with because, it's very hard to talk to people who are already making their own money. They can tell you, Maze, what are you doing for me? See, I'm making my money. What can you tell me? The easier ones to talk to are the ones who are back home who want to come. At least those ones you can at least get them into a kind of a thing so that when they come here, they're better. But there is a problem, of course, and it's not just limited to us as a country. I guess it's a young people issue everywhere. There is a problem, but we are sending younger and younger kids, and they're getting more and more, for lack of better words, lost in the things that can happen in a city, in a foreign country. And it's tough. I know for parents, there's a dream, you want your children to have a better life, as all of us do, and we are trying to find, to make sure that you can get a better education, maybe earn some good money, help someone back home, all those things. And so you send them a little bit earlier, and that can also have its own side effects because somebody who has never, boarded a bus by themselves in Nairobi, never had their own Mpesa, never ran any kind of accounts for anything or paid any bills, and suddenly, boom, they're in a foreign country, they're making money. They've never even held 20,000 shillings together. They can now make almost even $1 million if they wanted, if they worked as hard as they wanted in a month. And it can be overwhelming. They can get into progress, And for many of them, a lot of the instances, you find that things happen over here that sometimes don't get told back home because people want to keep it under the wraps, and try and put a good face. But within here, the discussions are there. There's a problem. There's definitely a problem because you have people if you look at the statistics that we were talking actually with the High Commissioner on statistics involving Kenyans in terms of like speeding and drunk driving and, and in domestic violence and brawls and fights in bars and parties. And it's high. It's high. We're just up there. And as a result, it's affecting our rankings as a country. It's affecting our ability to be able to have an easier time getting in. That's why you see bank statements for certain countries like ours are going up. And, because those are being put in place for people to come to a country like this one. And it's happening because of what's happening here. I mean, there's a direct correlation. People don't realize that they're ambassadors of their country when they're abroad, even when they don't have the title ambassador. You don't realize. And anything you do here, like if I do something over here, if I nyonga someone, the headline will be a Kenyan guy. See, the country is tagged. I mean, you can't run away from it. It is what it is. So there's a way you must carry yourself when you're in a foreign country. And hopefully those of us who have made a mistake and have been able to be granted an opportunity to be able to show our faces in a country like this one can be able to, talk and pump some sense into some of the guys who are coming behind us. I got 2 books I'm writing. One is mine. One is somebody else's doing it concurrently. And I'm working on some other projects that I'll talk about in the near future. But I believe that there is a reason as to why I'm here. And it's not just to see Wangeshi. Although that's a good reason to be here. It's not just. There is a calling upon my life, and that calling must be met. So I am here to make sure that I fulfill God's purpose for myself in that calling in my life. There's some guys that are doing amazing things. Sometimes we also focus on what's happening that's bad, and because it shouts, okay. But the good things, man, goodness, there's some guys who are doing some amazing stuff in this country who are Kenyans who just need to be lauded for their efforts in terms of inspiration and being able to conquer in a foreign country. And to be honest, I see why people come here in the deserts. The weather is mostly okay, except for the baridi ingine nakuja hapa saizi, it's a bit crazy, but it's lovely in that sense. It's more or less like a like Kenya with the systems working. If we could get our systems working, there's no reason why we could not be at this particular point at par at par with these guys. It's just systems, just making sure they work. I see that a lot of young people are upset right now with the government, as is many other people. And I guess this is what people really would like to see when you come abroad. You'd love to see this like back home, and see systems in place, things working, your taxes working for you, places that are clean, neat. Even Nairobi, tukisafisha tu Nairobi, we can really chase with a lot of countries in terms of how we look like. So there are those things. I can see why some guys have been stuck here, and I think it's a love for that system that works, that makes you addicted to it, to the point where you love it so much that you would not want to be in a system that doesn't work, where you are busy, having to do a lot of things, maybe to get a passport, to get an ID, to get a good conduct. Yani yote tu ni mastori tu na makona na kuitishwa vitu. If you're qualified here, you're qualified, and that's the beauty about it. There's also a lot of people from other nationalities here, especially in Sydney. Watu ni wengi kutoka kila mahali. I was in a restaurant, that's a Somali restaurant. It's making African food. That guy is selling one chapo at $5. Nilikuwa na calculate $5 times 80. Yeah, most things that you can do with your hands, people who can do something with their hands can survive here in a very good manner. If you know how to make hair, if you know how to do some electrical wiring, if you're a good guy who's at plumbing, this is your country. Hapa ndio unaweza pata mafanikio yale makuu. Because those tasks, those menial tasks, they have a lot of demand. Hata ukibonda gari hapa, by the way, kama mzee mwingine alibonda gari kadent kadogo, they say, replace the old door. Replace na watu wa Grogan wako like, you look at those things, okay? Those things you're missing. A haircut, for example, that posted about a haircut. Leo data nimekatwa nywele na wife. Nakwambia. Haircut niliona ati ni $50. $50, hey. $50. Those are the things now. Those are the things. So, ukiona nimekuwa mtu wa kinyozi usishangae. Naweza kuwa ni kabongo la biashara nimeona hapo, nataka kufill your gap. Yeah, so we got together with Justus to make the platform called Shared Moments Australia. And of course, my story was the first story on it, and it was the first story in it for a reason, so that it could set the stage for what we really want that platform to do. And that's this particular platform is for the person in the diaspora and the person back home. The person in the diaspora, because many times people come abroad and what they expected is not what they find, and what the people expect back home is not what reality is. We have a lot of expectations when we are back home. There's a lot of pressure on the people who are abroad to do things, especially in terms of sending money. There's a lot of black tax imposed on them in terms of taking care of people back home, and there's a lot of pressure here for them in order to perform, how to get to school, what to do, the things that they have to do to make sure that they stay above water, stay legal, stay within the confines of their visa status. It's a lot as well. So we are looking for this platform to be able to bridge the divide and the gap between the expectations back home and here. And sometimes here they get to a point where some people are aloof now. They're like, those guys won't even understand. There's no point of even telling them anything. Wacha tu wakae tu wakifikiria vile watafikiria. And that's not even a good place to be, because it's very gang-ho in terms of tumeachilia hiyo kitu imeenda. So we want to bridge the gap between the two, tell the stories of those guys. Like I told you, some people here are doing amazing things whose stories need to be told. Some guys went through excessively tough challenges to get to where they are, I talked to even one lady who told me when she came over here, she had no one to pick her up from the airport. And you'll be surprised how many people tell people they'll pick them up from the airport and then they don't. It's amazing. It's amazing. Or people who get here and sometimes they are they've come here and they've been told they're going to be rooming with so and so who was their friend from Kenya, and 1 week in, 2 days in, 3 days in, they are thrown out into the streets. And they don't have a job, they don't have anything to find themselves money, and they have to fend for themselves, and they're in a foreign country. I mean, people have gone through sheer hell to get out in the initial stages. Watu wamefanyana vitu pia yenye si poa. And those are some of the things, I was thinking about the Rosemary Zempi story. That story of Zempi is an eye-opener, and I see it is watched a lot because it has happened to a lot of people. It has happened. I'm pretty sure even you have seen it on the comments. I mean, there are some vicious chaps. I mean, I don't know why people would do that, but I guess that is how it is sometimes. Or even those people who have gone out of their way to, throw in some words about other people so that we can ensure that those other guys are taken out from a country like this one. Pia kuna mambo chafu pia, underhand dealings, those kinds of things. So we want to tell these stories to educate, to inform, to entertain, to give hope, and to give an avenue for others to be able to vent, to heal, to learn, and to tell their own stories, and to realize that you're not alone in some of the things. And even maybe at the end of the day, to get a support group or a place where you can be. Because the Shared Moments family, what I know is that every person who has come on Shared Moments ends up in a WhatsApp group called the Shared Moments WhatsApp group. So even there, you find people who have gone through things like you, who you can be able to reach out to privately or even collectively or even in the group, to be able to, because just telling your story doesn't mean you have healed. Sometimes you're going through it, but you have told it. So you're still in the healing process. You just need someone to keep on working with you. And those are the important things, so that the issues about to do with life abroad, especially here and places like here, because it's not just Australia we'll be talking about, people can be able to open their hearts and be able to realize that the challenges that affect us, they affect us all, whether you're abroad or you are in a country like this one. And if you're in a country like this one, let us understand them so that we don't live back home imagining a bed of roses where there isn't one, and we don't stay over here imagining nobody cares about the things you go through when we've never told the story. So we can bridge that gap and we can be able to understand each other, and that way we can make the experience of those who are coming aboard a bit better for those who come for the first time, and we can make the experience of those who remain behind and the expectation to be a bit more normalized. And everybody can be happy with each other, because, families have been strained of all these things. That whole thing of nani alienda na katusahau, atashikangi masimu, ataki nini. Sometimes the people who come and do that, they do that because they've reached a point where they feel like nobody will understand anyway. So what's the point? Wacha tu tuzime simu wakae huko, So that gap, hopefully in some degree, can be bridged by this particular platform, that we can share these stories. And not only can we share our challenges and our struggles, we can also share our moments of triumphs, and we can also share opportunities, because we are not just we're not meant to be an island. Just because I light your candle does not mean mine will be dimmed. It just means the whole room will get brighter. So let's light as many candles as we can and help each other up. Even where we know that this can help so-and-so or this can assist so-and-so, we might as well do it and make it possible for them. So in my own way, I'm here to help fan that light and make that get started and make sure that starts and hopefully burns into a roaring blaze. It will involve a number of people. I've spoken to some of them in Sydney. I've spoken to some of them in Melbourne, in Perth. I'm hoping that God allowing, I'll be able to visit some of those places as well and have those chats in person, and we'll be able to bring you more and more people who have got insight and information right here on Shared Moments Australia. If you're African and you're listening, we want you to, because the African story is the Kenyan story. It's the same thing. If you're from another continent that's not Africa and you have a compelling story as well, we'd like to listen, because we also learn from looking at other people's perspectives. So it's not just about us. It's about us also getting insights from others. Because else, how else do we learn? How else do we know? How else do we realize that our challenges as Kenyans are not just our challenges as Kenyans? That, the Nigerians are feeling it too. That maybe a Jamaican is going through the same thing. Maybe even a guy from Europe. Who knows? Yeah? How else do we know? We only know if we learn and we tell our stories. And that only place we can do that is where we find a platform like this one, where we can bring a conglomeration of ideas and be able to do that. So I am happy to step into that space and help that get a light. And I'm hoping that many of you will sign up to be able to step into that space as well and tell your stories from any part of the world that you're in, and be able to share, your moments of triumphs and challenges and the way things are from your perspective, so that we too can learn from you. I'm just going to say that, to any person who's undergoing a difficult time, who has had a stint in a foreign country that hasn't worked, and who's maybe in a foreign country right now and things are not going very well for you, and you're despairing. Don't despair. Stories of mine come to give you hope, to tell you that God is still in the business of performing miracles. And that when you look at mine and ask yourself, can it happen to you? Yes, it can happen to you. Why not? You're a human being. You're a person who's put over here, and you are loved and cared for by God. Why can't it happen to you? Definitely, it can happen to you too. And it can even happen even more exceedingly abundantly than even it has happened to me. So I stand here as a conduit of that hope and as a messenger of hope to say, don't give up. Don't throw in the towel. And as I said, for me, it took me 21 years for me to find myself again in a first world country. And it's not just about coming here. You see, the whole big thing is not about here. It's about that whole getting a permission, an opportunity, a kibali to be able to travel. You know, for a long time, that sat on me because with this opening, I feel like it is possible for me to walk into any other place right now and lay claim to a travel anywhere else without feeling like the past will be held against. And that was the thing that was just on my mind, because who knows where your children will end up and where you'll have to go and visit them, or what will happen, what opportunity can show up for you, maybe even, who knows, in South America, in North America, in Canada, wherever it is in Europe. And you need to chase it. What will it stop you? Because will your past stop you because the past happened? This is a whole thing just to tell you that your past is. And even when you're going through the doldrums, because when you are going through it, those days are many, those nights are many, and they can be so strung together and nobody can realize that you're going through them. I mean, they're hard days. Today in Apita, you're still in the same place. Tomorrow, the next day, they're hard days. When we put them in a book like mine, or when you tell them in a story, it's a sentence. You know, that, oh, it happened over 21 years. That's just a sentence. But the reality is 21 years is how many times 365 days? Those are many days. So don't feel like it's gone for too long. The day of sunlight is coming. And the day of sunlight is nigh. And you're welcome on the platform to share, to listen. Sometimes you may not have answers for you, but maybe we have good stories that you can listen to that can just make you go over here and just say, hey, maybe I'm not that bad. Or maybe that person, just like me, is just like me and that happened to him. Or, you know, or even give you a completely different perspective of the problem that you are seeing. Because a problem shared is a problem halved, and a problem shared with many people is also cut in very many small pieces. So let's share it. Let's get as many people as we can on the platform. Share this platform. Talk to your friends. Let me know who we can interview or who we need to talk to on this platform who can give us insight and hope about life abroad or life back home as well. And we'll be happy to partner with you, to share with you, to shake hands with you, and to work with you, and to help in making the world a better place because of the stories that we share and the people that we reach. So I'm looking forward to a very vibrant connection and a connection of hope in the midst of all the stories that we see on social media that may not be so nice and warm and fuzzy, and we turn on the news and it's a lot of negativity and we are worried about what's going on and the things that are changing. We want to make this place a place of hope so that you can know that things can change, because they can. They will. Yeah. So finally, subscribe to the platform. Don't be mean with your subscription button. Finya hiyo kitu hapo kaza. Finya hapo. Send it to a friend. Tell somebody else. Let's subscribe and let's get this thing going. And let's see how far we can go and where we can reach and how many lives we can touch. And look forward to seeing you again on this platform. Hopefully tell the story of someone else this time. And we will pick on a story of hope and pick it and continue from there.